guy stuck in the marsh is me, and the red machine I'm trying to get out is our tractor. To understand how we ended up here, we need to go back a few years to a young couple that had good jobs and a nice city apartment in Bergen. We left it all for a rundown farm. The barn was a pile of rotten timber, the house hadn't been touched since the 70s, nothing worked, and standing here now you might wonder why we ever did this. We wanted a simple life, to take care of animals, grow our own food and build something that felt real. Big farms in good conditions are expensive, but sometimes properties like our farm hit the market. We ended up getting this farm for only $150,000. That was less than our apartment. This was crucial for being able to live the life that we wanted. But living on an old abandoned farm like ours is not all fun and games. Life can also be hard and nature can be unforgiving. My wife Marianne and I bought an apartment in the second biggest city in Norway, Bergen. The apartment was nice, central, and we had everything we needed close by. Shopping centers, a park we could take walks in, and good bus connections to the rest of the city. We had good jobs and on paper everything you should want in life. But that was on paper. Sitting in the car every day to and from work, moving papers on a desk, and walking around along the shops in the shopping center soon became repetitive. It felt like we were gliding through life, propped up by pillars on every side. It didn't feel like we were actually living. Time just came and went. We wanted more. We wanted to get out of the easy rhythm that was both so soothing and on the same time suffocating. We were tired of the noisy city life and wanted fresh air and nature around us. TV shows about people that had taken the leap and moved to the country compelled us. People that were living alternative lifestyles inspired us. We started looking online for something of our own. We started looking through the property ads online. We started by looking at houses in the countryside. A big garden, a quiet place. It was tempting, but there was a problem. A house alone wouldn't really change that much. We would still have the same jobs, just a longer commute. Leaving early and coming home late in the evening, the reason for moving would slowly disappear. If we were going to change our lives, we needed something that could also support us. That's when we started looking at farms. In the end, we found it. It was a farm on a remote island called Osterøy. It was in a really bad condition and it hadn't been farmed since the 60s. But with its 33 acres, it had loads of potential. Buying a farm, however, is not like buying a house, as we would soon discover. The farm was listed for $110,000, but after the bidding round we ended up with the highest offer of $150,000. The farm was ours, or so we thought. It turns out that to buy farmland you needed an approval from the government. For 6 months we were stuck. Unable to move forward, unsure if the plan would collapse even before it began. In the end, it was approved, and we were finally farm owners. First on our list was to make the house habitable. We ripped out old carpets, changed out several of the old broken windows, and along the way we also discovered that we were going to be parents. As our son was early and the windows was late, we brought home our firstborn child into a house that had planks nailed over the gaping holes where the windows were supposed to be. It was chaos. We were like kids in a candy shop and wanted it all. Every animal we had learned to point out in children's books about farms, we wanted them. We bought chickens, sheep, turkey and even pigs. It was a real farm, but it was also a real mess. Small children, many animals, a house in disrepair and a long commute, as I still had my old job, was all adding up. We had to sit down and ask ourselves a serious question. Were we actually living the simple life we wanted? We needed a clear plan. What did we actually want with this farm, and how could this farm realistically give us that? First, we needed to free up some time. We cut spendings to a minimum, grew some of our own food so that I could step down from work. Then we got rid of the animals without a clear purpose. We sold the pigs and ate the turkeys. That left us with the sheep that gave us some income and the chickens that gave us eggs. Things were moving along in an okay pace, but there was always a big shadow hanging over the farm. If we ever wanted to take this sheep business out of the hobby category into something that could actually support us, we needed a barn. And the one that came with the farm laid in a pile of rotten logs inside some ruins that once was a big and beautiful barn. We made a choice that would cost us a lot. We had to rebuild it. I dragged my tired body over to the ruins to remove all the debris by hand with only a wheelbarrow. The simple life didn't feel very simple anymore. For several years I had envisioned the barn and how it could look, and for every rotten log I dragged out of there, more of the old foundation became visible. It was in a remarkably good condition, and so at the end of the summer, the 100-year-old stone walls were once again clearly visible. We then placed an order on a timber frame and marveled at the process. This was finally happening. The fields on our farm were wet and marshy as all the underground drains had collapsed. The plan was to transport the frame over to the barn with a massive tractor and a wagon, but with the fields in this state they would get stuck, so I set out to make a new trench. But soon disaster struck. The tractor sank and we were back where we started, stuck in the marsh. I needed help, and luckily help was not far away as my neighbor also had a tractor. But there was one problem. I had dug through the road so he couldn't get to our tractor. I needed to backfill this by hand. As the wheel in the poor wheelbarrow blew out, my spirit was low. It's easy then to look back at the comfortable life fluffed in pillows, the nice apartment where nothing needed fixing, the desk, the pre-organized life, and think, is this what I wanted? There is always an answer ready to spring back. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted. A life where choices have consequences. A life where you can take a step back and say proudly, I did that. Now I live. I'm no longer just alive. In the end, the tractor was free and we could get back to work. We still needed to get the timber frame safely to the barn, and so with an old tractor and a lot of motivation, we built a road instead. The frame went up in record speed with the two builders working long days. It was an amazing feeling to see what we have worked so hard for coming to life right in front of our eyes. It was finally happening. With this barn, we would not just be hobby farmers with a few sheep, we would be farmers for real. Once the building stood there proudly, the builders left. This was the part that we had hired them for, and now they were done. To keep costs to a minimum, I would do the rest of it myself. I started by getting sick. And once I recovered, the building was filled with water as it had rained every single day. This would not do, as the beautiful timber structure would take damage, so I set out to make the roof waterproof. So this is where we currently are. The roof is somewhat waterproof, the farm is still nowhere near finished, and the story continues. We are left with the realization that a simple life isn't easy. It's not supposed to be. Easy is boring. It's about choosing your own path and standing by it. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to take a closer look at the barn renovation, take a look at this video next.